We're from the Eye Opener, and we're here to discuss dicks. We all giggle like children.
Yeah.
We're here to have a conversation about whether it's normal to be circumcised or whether it's normal to be uncircumcised. With me are Sarah Delgado, Nicole Sienna, Van Dale, and Mohammed Omar. And I'm Kai Benson. And let's get into it. Okay, so what do you guys think? What's normal to you?
I think that there's no normal anymore. I think that depending on where you were born and what kind of family you were raised in, to some people being circumcised is the only thing. It's not even a question of being normal or not. And to some people being uncircumcised is the only thing you can do. And to some other people there's really no rules about it.
Which is why I asked, where do you stand on that?
I stand on the thing that, I mean, your parents get to name you, and apparently they get to choose whether they get to snip you off too. So I think that there really is no yes or no about it. I mean, I always thought that being uncircumcised meant that it had some kind of risk later in your life, but I guess that's not true. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think I have to agree with you. It's not really abnormal per se, but like if you're gonna get technical about it, it's more normal to be uncircumcised than it is to be circumcised. I mean, you're surgically adapting a part of the human body, and that's, in any other sense of that definition, that's not normal, right? So I'd say like being uncircumcised is technically more normal, but like it's not like, you know, you're going down on a guy and oh my god, what's that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just expected that somebody will or won't be, and it's fine either way.
Well, as we're talking about it biologically, like, yeah, you're right.
But how about culturally?
I don't know, like, I'm gonna just say, like, I have never seen a dick that hasn't been circumcised, yeah. So, for me, that is just, like, the only thing that I am familiar with.
Would it be like a shock to you if you saw an uncircumcised one, or?
Well, I mean, I think I'm old enough that I would, like, be able to realize that they're normal, like, there's nothing wrong with them, it's, like, that's all I've ever...
Well, to touch on what Nicole was saying, I think the normalness is very much different depending on whether you're a man or a woman. Women, yeah, they see a variety. Men, I mean, yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, it's always been that way.
Right.
So there's no great degree of difference to us. It's more of a realm of if you run across multiple penises as opposed to I just have one. So
You only have one?
At the same time, though, I think the whole cultural issue around it is, for women at least, you know, you have, like, when you're getting sexually active, you have that time where you see, like, the opposite sex's genitalia for the first time, and it's weird, because it's, like, it's a little odd.
it's a series of tubes.
But it's unfamiliar, right? And so you see a pussy and it looks like a pussy, and every other pussy looks pretty much the same.
Hey, there are variations.
There are variations, but they look pretty much the same. There aren't any, like, stark differences, and if there are, I'm very sorry. But I don't know, I think if you see a circumcised or an uncircumcised dick for the first time, when you see the other option, it's like a little bit of a shock again. It's like, okay, something new.
So, I mean, from there, if you're talking, like, seeing for the first time as in, like, you know, the classroom sex ed scenario, what the hell do they show in schools at this point? Is that, like,
Well, they don't show, like, pictures, they show diagrams, like,
but
this is where everything is, and...
is the diagram circumcised or uncircumcised? Is that where people are getting a perception from?
Regardless of that, even, they show them from a side view. When are you ever going to see it from that angle?
Yeah.
Well,
and you know,
there are a couple of positions where that might be important.
No, okay, but same thing if you guys were to see a diagram of a vagina, though. It's like, they're not going to say that, like, the labia is this long and the clit is, like, this big. Like, everything's different.
They really should, though, shouldn't they? Give me a roadmap!
Okay, like Mo touched on earlier, like your parents...
touched on.
Shut up! Your parents ultimately have the decision for most people whether you're going to be circumcised or uncircumcised, especially if you're circumcised, because, I mean, you can't really go back from that. It's easy to circumcise yourself later in life, but
Not yourself.
No.
Not yourself.
it's like any other surgery. You go under for it. Don't just do it with kitchen scissors. Circumcisors. Anyways, should your parents actually have the right to essentially mutilate you at birth?
Good question. I think, in my opinion, I wouldn't call it mutilation because, I mean, I don't think circumcision has any harmful effects. So when you say mutilation, that gives it the idea that it's bad and it's physically harmful for you. But when it comes to female genital mutilation, that's bad. So that's a whole different story. But in terms of if they have the right, I don't think it's a right. I think it's, holy crap, we just made this baby. What do we do with it? Quick, snip something up. I don't feel that it's gonna really. I mean, I'm circumcised. I don't think I've lost a lot. I mean, I suck at basketball. I don't think that's the reason of circumcision.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to answer from like a female point of view because it's like I never really had to think about it. Like I know that my parents chose to get my brothers circumcised.
Why do you know that?
My mom told me a story. Just never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know if my brother is or not. I don't really want to know. But I guess like from our point of view, it'd be when or if we have children, if we would do it and why we would do it. And I don't know. I guess I would put that on my husband and see what he thinks, and if he is like, I don't know. I just don't know how that affects down there.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel just it's kind of like. We all have different parts, and if you don't have the kind of parts I have, don't tell me what to do with them, and vice versa. Like, I don't feel like I would have the right to decide for, like, regardless of whether it was my spawn, like, I don't think I would have the right to decide what to do with its genitals.
So do you think as a, like, let's say a couple has a kid, and they decide not to circumcise it, and give the kid the choice later in life, so do you think that would be a better option?
I guess, I don't know.
I think it would be. I think that would also mean that almost nobody would be circumcised. But I sort of lean towards that's how it should be anyways. Not because there's, like you said, there's nothing really wrong with being circumcised, but there's almost no point to it unless you are really religious or something. Like you mentioned, the cleanliness thing, it's sort of like, I think there used to be weight to that, but I mean, like, we have soap and daily showers now. Yeah. Like, nobody's
I'm pretty sure, yeah, like back then,
rotting up and falling off. Like.
Dick gangrene.
Oh, gross.
Well, I'll see you guys later.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say that back home we had this prevailing idea, both culturally and religiously, in that you had to be circumcised because that's how, you know, Moses and Abraham and everyone else was circumcised. So, and then when I moved here, I realized that it has nothing to do with religion. It's, I mean, according to Canada. So I realized that it's now a matter of choice, which, you know, opens up the other question is, what do I choose if I'm a one-day-old infant, you know? So I don't think choice is an issue in this. It's the fact of, should you even circumcise kids?
If you were not circumcised, would you choose to now?
If I wasn't circumcised, I don't think I would. After seeing lots of pop culture that has told me that it hurts a lot, and realizing what circumcision actually is, I would say no. But if someone came up to me and said, man, it's going to hurt like hell for like 2 months, but you will not have dick gangrene with it, I'd be like, yeah, snip me off. But, you know, if there's no reason to, and it's going to hurt like hell, I'm going to say no.
I mean, more than that, there's that, I think it's mostly American movement, uncircumcision or something like that, where men are upset that their parents circumcised them and they're using, like, a series of weights to try to stretch the skin back out.
Occupy circumcision.
Oh my god, it's terrible.
So
I don't even know what to say about that. It's just...
My vagina hurts.
Well, I guess what that's saying is that there are men who apparently are angry that that choice was taken away from them. I mean, to weigh in on your earlier question, should parents get to choose? Well, you know, I think at that point you've got an infant, and to me, infants are kind of like having a dog that slowly learns how to walk and talk. So at that point, you're responsible, and you get to make your choice based on whatever cultural or medical reasoning you can find. That's not to say that no one's going to be pissed off later on.
I don't get that, though. Like, it's...
The series of weights? I don't know how the science
but, like,
works.
Even if your parents made the decision, I don't get why you'd be pissed at it. It's like, that's your dick. It's part of you. You're not going to remember what it was like before. You're never really going to know what it was like.
It's
what it's ever going to be
they
like.
just have issues with their parents.
Probably, but like, I don't know. If there's foreskin? It's just foreskin. It's not.
What I find hilarious, just for how did you measure this out, like, what kind of science did you use behind this? Apparently, according to these groups, they've discovered that sex is more pleasurable for men who are uncircumcised. And I'm like, how did you figure this out? Did you just have, like, an uncircumcised guy fuck someone, rate it, then
I think
go?
anything like that kind of has to be at least a little bit bullshit because, I mean, pleasure is subjective. So, I mean,
That's very true.
Yeah.
like, maybe it fires in your brain more, but who knows what's really going on.
Ah, fuck, I mean, you have no barometer for it. You have no
Exactly.
measuring stick. But yeah, there are movements of people who are pissed off at their parents for it. So there's something there. Or
Let's suppose that it actually was harmful. Would religion be an excuse to do that?
definitely.
Sorry, circumcision were harmful.
Say female circumcision was done just as often as male circumcision, and for like the same religious reasons, would it get a pass?
Yeah, probably.
People would still do it. I mean, they're still.
Religion always gets a pass.
Yeah, religion always kind of supersedes, and that's basically because at its core it's the belief in a higher power. So, you know, you say, oh well, there's some danger, there's some pain involved now, but it leads to, you know, ultimate gratification, salvation. So yeah.
If I knew they were like, if they were going to be like, in the future, if my kid were going to be harmed by that procedure, I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if it was just going to like hurt for a few hours and he'll be fine, like, then it'd be a more logical choice, like that you can weigh.
But even still, when you
Yeah.
think about it, it's like it's gonna hurt for a few hours and it'll be fine, or it can not hurt at all and it's gonna be fine.
But what if like
Baby
no?
torture.
He's saying no. Like imagine if no. But he's saying if in the future, if there were like medical defects or like it were to harm your kid, if you were to circumcise, would you still do it based on your religion?
I'm sorry, I think you just made the language even more convoluted than it originally was.
Oh.
It's alright.
No, I think what she's
Yeah, I
trying
get
to
what
say.
you're
Yeah. I don't think that, not even with circumcision, if you have anything that a religion kind of says that you have to do, whether it's good or bad for you, I think people who are fairly religious will do it anyway, because to them it's not about. I mean, they're going to obviously consider the medical risks or benefits or anything like that, but to them it's religious. It's different. It's not cultural. So, I don't know. I would say, I would agree with what...
I guess also what I was asking is, would society give them a pass to do that to their children? Like, would we
step in and...
would we say, like, you can't do... Like, it's a...
I think it's...
It's a weird analogy, but, like, in some places in the States, if you... I think it's certain Native American tribes can still use, like, mushrooms and peyote and stuff like that because it's part of their religion, when, you know, for everybody else, it's illegal to take.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that. Like, would they get a pass, or...
I think it totally depends on the society. Like, I doubt if you go somewhere in the Middle East that you can, you're not going to have any abortion clinics, for example.
Right.
You know, so I think the prevalent ideology in the society will determine what you can do or not do.
Well, on that note as well, you won't see any abortion clinics in the Middle East, but they do kind of exist, and I think if you were to ban that, you say, okay, your religion is all fine and good, but you're not allowed to do this. I mean,
You just get a lot of people doing it at home.
Yeah.
or unscrupulous doctors, underground clinics, shit like that.
Right.
And that leads to even greater risks of, infection and unsanitary conditions. So,
That being said, too, like there's female circumcision that happens, and like I've seen documentaries of just old ladies doing it in their house, and like, man.
Yeah, it hurts.
But like it happens to a girl when she's like between 11 and 14, so she's well aware what's happening. They just take her legs and tie them. Like she has no choice in the matter. So here is the same thing happening to a girl, where she's 14 or 13 or whatever, and knows what's about to happen to her, and still doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you can have as many ideas as you want, but if the culture and place you're growing up in has this idea, you're going to do it no matter what.
This has been Talking About Dicks.